Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bird Notice. Billy here. Leading off, the Orioles signed Kyle Gibson. The Braves signed James McCann and Craig Kimbrell to minor league contracts. And Kobe Mayo throws a temper tantrum. But Ryan, what episode number is this?
This is episode 71, which was worn by pitcher Oliver Drake in parts of 3 seasons with the Orioles. A native of Massachusetts, Drake was drafted by the O's in the 43rd round of the 2008 draft out of the Naval Academy in Annapolis. At the academy, students don't sign the 5-year military obligation until the first week of their junior year, and Drake decided to turn pro after he was drafted following his sophomore year. He spent a long time in the minors, having shoulder surgery in 2012, and he made his major league debut in 2015. Drake made 30 appearances for the Orioles from 2015 to early 2017, compiling a 3.89 ERA with 41 strikeouts and 19 walks in 37 innings. He was traded to Milwaukee for cash, then bounced around to Cleveland, the Angels, Blue Jays, Twins, and Rays. Drake had his best full season in 2019 with Tampa, making 50 appearances with a 3.21 ERA and 137 ERA plus.
Yeah, I remember Drake with the Tides, and he's just one of those guys you figured would never get out of AAA. So, I don't know, 5 years later, I'd look up and see his name in a box score or something in the major leagues. I'd be like, holy shit, Oliver Drake is not only still playing, but he's in the major leagues.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive for him to kind of peak in 2019, where he had already bounced around so much and had spent so long in the minors. I mean, credit to him for sticking with it, but yeah, he had quite a career as far as grinding it out, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure he made himself some money too. Yeah, just a cool story. Just to keep getting chances too.
Right. And it's something I didn't know until I looked him up about the Naval Academy. Like I knew the service academies had some type of like obligation to be in the military for X amount of time, but I didn't realize until looking this up that if you go to play at Navy, that you don't have to commit to that until you start your junior year. So he was like, all right, I got drafted after my sophomore year and I'm going to go for it.
Speaking of another old guy that won't quit, we got Kyle Gibson is back.
Yeah, you kind of called that one, huh?
I did. I even got the money close. I said 5 million. He got 5.25 with some bonuses and escalators. And then you had thrown out there him being a veteran, possibly having the right to negotiate how many starts he could make for the Orioles, because it's not known how long the Orioles might be looking to use him. And it looks like that was negotiated because he gets $150,000 escalators every start after 14 starts.
Every start. That's impressive. I mean, if he reaches it. But that's pretty sweet knowing that just by walking out there you get 150 grand.
I'm very curious to see how this plays out between him, Morton, Saganu, these old guys who, I mean,
Suarez.
They're highly questionable. Yeah, Suarez.
I have a shit ton of old dudes
placed on the injured list today. So,
like, for a young team, their rotation is old as hell, it seems like.
Yeah, I have that in our win prediction discussion later on. But overall, signing someone like Kyle Gibson is a pretty average move. But in terms of what the Orioles had available to him, and we all know him, the fans know him, the team knows him, the front office knows him. This is an A+ move. The Yankees dropped the ball by not signing him after Heel and Cole went down.
We'll see. We'll see who dropped the ball. If he doesn't do well, then I don't know if you can say that. But I guess, as we've said before, they need all the depth they can get at this point. So another arm who at least is probably like average at this point, if slightly below, is better than having nobody, I guess.
The fans were pretty underwhelmed with this signing in 2023, us included. I was kind of upset they didn't exercise Jordan Lyles option at the time, but he won us all over. I wanted to see him start game one of the playoffs that year. I thought he had earned the right. I didn't think Bradish and especially Grayson, I didn't think he was ready. And then, Bradish was still in his first full season at the time.
Well, fast forward to the start of the 2025 regular season, and neither Bradish nor Grayson are ready again. So, Gibson, what do they say? The best ability is availability. He's there.
Yeah, not including 2020. Morton, Gibson have combined for 30 plus starts for 12 seasons in a row. And to Grayson here, for the, I guess, people who wanted to see him start opening day or be labeled an ace already, like you just said, the first thing you got to do is take the mound every 5 days. And that's something Morton and Gibson have been able to do. And Weather still sought after in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, of course, we're all hoping it works out well, but have you seen anything about when they estimate Gibson will be ready to start a major league game?
I guess he needs like a full month.
Okay.
He basically needs. I saw some quotes from
spring
High that
training.
he basically needs spring training. I imagine he's going to make a couple starts probably in. Is it Bowie, Chesapeake?
I think they're called the Chesapeake Bay Sox now, right?
Are you going to buy any oyster catchers gear? Did you see that new logo?
I don't know if you can at this point. I think they took it all away.
I saw what everyone else saw in there, but I was like, I didn't realize everyone else had seen it until later on. I was just like, grow up, Billy. But then, yeah, everybody saw it to the point where they announced they're going to donate some proceeds of the sales to cervical cancer research.
Right. It's, in it seems like every year there's things that happen. It's like, how does that happen in the year fill in the blank, And it's just one of those things where nobody said anything or caught it or they did it on purpose. I don't know.
Poor Kyle Gibson if he has to make a rehab start wearing a vagina on his hat at the age of 37.
I think they'll go with the well, what was that bird? Like a heron or something? I don't even know what bird. It wasn't a pelican, was it?
Yeah, it looked like a pelican. I don't know what it is.
Do pelicans eat oysters? I have no idea.
They do now.
Some type of big demon bird. That was cooler anyways.
Imagine Kyle Gibson going full Chris Sale in the Bay Sox clubhouse, cutting up oyster catchers jerseys.
Chopping them up.
Like, this is against my religion. I'm not doing this.
It might lead to a future Cy Young when nobody expects it.
But yeah, I think he needs a month. So I expect him. Hopefully, he gets to start at Harbor Park. I'll go if I'm available to go that day. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see Kyle Gibson make a start for the Tides. He can get his Tides card.
Yeah, it's just while you were saying that, I was just thinking about how many innings he might throw, and then thinking of how much he would throw in a real game, and then just thinking about their bullpen last year and how they seemed very taxed by a lot of measures, and I don't know if I feel good about that in terms of the bullpen.
Yeah,
not that they have any other options, like you said, but it's just like they're already causing themselves the same problem last year, and it's not even April.
That's the thing. Like, I mentioned this, I think the last two episodes, where the vision for this 2025 rotation a couple years ago was DL Hall, Bradish, and Grayson, and none of them are available. Hall's not even in the organization anymore. So what we're seeing now is these Band-Aids of Morton, Saganu, Gibson, all on one-year deals, and you just hope it doesn't cause the season to unravel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as we saw with Sagano and Morton just this weekend, if they do that a few times, that could really screw things up throughout a series or a week or a month or, God forbid, a season.
And you want Cade Povich to carry the lightest load at this point in the season, and it looks like a lot more is going to be asked of him than you want to ask of him initially.
Mm-hmm. You're right. I agree.
Gibson wasn't the only pitcher acquired recently. The Orioles acquired Cody Poteet from the Cubs for cash considerations. Poteet is a 2015 fourth round selection by the Marlins out of UCLA. 24 career games, 13 of those are starts. Decent numbers for the Yankees last season. He went 3-0 with a 2.22 ERA in 24 and a third innings, 4 starts, 5 games. And I think it's easy to just assume Poteet is AAA depth, but with Suarez being terrible in the spring and out of options and currently injured, and Brian Baker out of options, I think Poteet might be closer to this bullpen than some of us might realize.
I think you're right on track there. I mean, his numbers with the Yankees were actually pretty good last year, and obviously you can't count on that being an exact replica, but certainly good enough to be eligible, or I should say, like in the mix in a bullpen that has guys like Cianel Perez and Matt Bowman getting regular innings.
Yeah, Perez is off to a rough start too already. Bowman looked pretty good today.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, like talent wise, he's nothing special, but
Right.
yeah.
In the off season, if you had told us Matt Bowman and Brian Baker were going to be using the opening series of the season, you would have some serious questions.
Yep.
So we did some predictions, things we want to see, and over unders. We each made 3 of them. You want to throw these at each other? See
Yeah,
where it takes us?
mine are all kind of like threaded together. So if you want, I can start and just do the thing I want to see, and then the prediction that's related to it, and then the over under for you to think on.
Okay, yeah, and I might be able to match what I have with what you're throwing at me.
All right. So my number one thing I want to see this year is, well, I put it number one, but now that I think about it, it's probably not actually number one, but I put a contract extension. And my prediction, bold prediction here, Adley Rutschman and Cedric Mullins both sign extensions during the season.
Ooh, Cedric Mullins.
Yeah, I think Mullins is more of a proven commodity at this point and is going to be willing to take a smaller, shorter term deal than Adley, Gunnar, Westberg, all those other guys. So I feel like he would be a sneaky first extension guy that the Orioles could announce. So people would be like, oh, they are actually serious about doing this.
That is sneaky, and yeah, I wouldn't have considered that. I'm, operating under the assumption that Mullins will probably walk at the end of the season, but that's not a bad idea. Like, he's basically the Andrew McCutchen of the Orioles. I think if you could get him, what do you think, like 4 years?
I was thinking, yeah, that would probably be the max I would give him.
Yeah.
But, just thinking about the outfield depth, Kauser's capable of playing center. He hasn't done it a lot, and I've liked what I've seen from O'Neill in the field so far, but who knows how long he'll actually be there. But they don't have any other major league ready bats and gloves like that combination. You have Kerstad, who's an adventure in the outfield. You have guys like Bradfield in the minors who haven't played a major league game. So I don't really know what else you're going to be looking at to fill that void if he does leave.
He's a table setter for the Orioles. His defense is irreplaceable. That's for sure. No one can do what he does. I mean, like you said, Bradfield's on. Maybe he can, but you may never know.
I love their defensive outfield so far. Between Kauser, Mullins, and O'Neill, like that's really good. That may, we talked a lot about Santander and how he got a lot better at fielding, but I know it's a small sample size. But just watching this first series, O'Neill just gets to many more balls, and even that, like, not only does he get there, but he gets there like in time to make a routine catch. And he's just more athletic and faster than Santander ever was.
So O'Neill is dynamic, and he gets there decisively. It seems like he's been here for years already, and it's been 4 games. And he kind of made, to me, I hate to talk Bill of the Dead, but he kind of made Santander look slow.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and that the opening day, Santander popped a ball up, and my initial reaction, seeing it as Santander, was like, "Oh, here we fucking go with the
It's
with."
like, oh wait.
And I was like, "Yeah, he's never mind. This isn't my problem anymore."
Right, right.
But Kyle Raleigh uh, just got an extension from the Mariners, and yeah, it's time to give one of these things out, whether it's to anybody really.
Yeah, that was actually part of my thinking with suggesting Agley because of the Raleigh deal, and also just the fact that I think Agley will not command the dollars that Gunnar would at this point. And we all know
Yeah,
the O's aren't big into paying anybody anything right now, so why would they do Gunnar first, you know? So my my over under for you then is extension signed this season. Over or under 2. Or maybe I should say like 1.5.
yeah. Tomorrow is opening day, so if you were looking to make a splash tomorrow, I know Orioles status Ben had pitched today on Blue Sky. Announce the Adley extension tomorrow. Have him run down the orange carpet. Over under 1.5. Man, it's really depressing to think that they won't do one.
But it's an absolute possibility.
Yeah, if I were betting on this, I would say under, but I really want to see it in its time. I'm going to say over. And you sold me between Eflin, Mullins, and Adley. Like those are 3 easy candidates right there. Yeah. So I'm gonna say over 1.5.
The only thing about Eflin is he's a starting pitcher, and I feel like they're just in such high demand that it makes sense for him to go to free agency. But hopefully he loves Baltimore.
He could easily get like 23 million a season.
Right. And nobody
And
would bat an eye.
and it seems like the Orioles might have like an internal we don't do that philosophy for pitching.
Yeah, it's like we prefer broken young guys or really old dudes, but nobody who's actually good and a veteran who's solid.
Yeah, no one in their prime currently.
Right. All
Um
right, what do you got?
so I'll tie this into starting pitchers over under how many they use this season, 11.5.
Ooh.
And I have listed Eflin, Sugano, Trevor Rogers, Bradish, McDermott, Povich, Grayson, Gibson, Kramer, Suarez, Morton, Brandon Young, and Tyler Welbs as 13 possibilities. And you could probably throw Cody Poteet into that pile too.
Is he a starter?
He started
Oh, you're right.
13.
Okay. God, yeah, I want to be optimistic and be like, no, they don't need that many starters, but we already know that like half those dudes you listed are injured already, and at some point we'll probably come back. We're hoping, except Rogers. I kind of hope he doesn't. But yeah,
Yeah, like 5 are currently injured.
right. It's also like I think I've said before. It wouldn't surprise me if Bradish doesn't pitch this year, and who knows about Wells too. So coupling that with the fact I want to be optimistic at the same time, I'm going to say under.
Under 11.5. Being
Yeah.
optimistic. Okay.
It's like being negative about the guys who are hurt, who like, okay, they won't come back, so that reduces the number, and then being positive about the guys who are currently able to throw a baseball.
I know how you feel about Bradish. I 100% agree with, but I'm kind of there with Grayson already.
He was throwing in Toronto today or yesterday.
He's always one warm-up pitch away though from calling for his mom.
I can't dispute that.
Yeah. So I'm going to say over. There's so many available guys. There's going to be someone we never heard of, or maybe an opener.
Some waiver claim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's not even in the organization yet.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. It would be sweet if they just had the same five guys that could roll all year, but I wonder when the last time a team, in the modern era where a 5-man rotation is normal, like when has that ever happened? Where only the same five dudes started every game.
Yeah, I don't know how you would look that up,
I don't either.
but
So I'm not going to try.
I guess maybe least starting pitchers used in a season.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the nerd side of me is like, all right, if I was using SQL, how would I search for like number of unique names that have started a game in a certain year? I don't know. There's a way to do it, I bet, that somebody smarter than me could figure out.
Did you want to throw another one out there?
Yeah, so this is the thing I should have put first, but I put second while I was thinking about it, is a playoff series win.
Things that,
um,
things you want to see.
yes, things I want to see. So my prediction
That's a good
is
one.
the O's make the playoffs and break their winless streak games wise, but don't advance past the division series. So my over under for you is playoff games won this year, over under 1.5. Because
So
this obviously requires them to make it, and that's not a given for sure.
yeah, the AL East is it's probably harder than it's ever been in some ways because it used to just be top heavy with the Red Sox and Yankees. It was like, how are we ever going to catch them? But now it seems like they're all going to be at least in the 80 win range.
Right. They're
Uh,
all at minimum decent.
yeah. So my kind of thinking on this is like, I will be happy with a single playoff victory this season, which I know is sad, but
I feel
that's
the same
how
way.
low the bar went for me last season. What was it? Over under
1.5 playoff games won.
oh god. I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna hope they get the bye again. Um, if they don't win a playoff game, you really gotta wonder what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. And if these aforementioned extensions have not occurred by then, what are they going to do? Are they going to start trying to trade guys and like change things up? It could be a shit show.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like some of this hasn't made it to some people yet, where they still think like 10-year window. Like
Yeah,
no,
no.
that's the Cubs how that worked out.
Right.
Even though the Cubs won one, like
If
everyone
they
still thought they
were
were going to make it to multiple.
right, and if even if the Orioles had like if they had the Dodgers budget, then yeah, I'd be confident that all their good young players would get re-signed. But that's just not realistic. So now is the time where you have less money tied up in some of your best players to use that on other guys, and
Yeah,
they're not doing that this year. So
it's a rookie quarterback contract
right,
situation. Yeah, so I'll tie this into one of the things I want to see, and it's I want to see Brandon Hyde take the next step and prove he can hang with the top echelon of managers. Um, he did an amazing job coming out of the rebuild, leading them in 2022, taking a huge step in 2023. Last year was very mixed. Um, it's crazy to think he's only 60 games under 500 for his career. 2020 kind of saved him a lot, probably saved him 70 more losses. Um, I think he'll benefit too from having some guys like Morton and Gibson in the clubhouse, and having Batista back in the ninth inning should make his job a lot easier. But yeah, I have to remember I was down with Brandon Hyde for 6.5 years or whatever it was, and I don't want to let like 3 months of last season sour how I feel about him. But he has to take the next step and with the top managers in the game. Some people have to tell me that managers don't matter. I don't believe that whatsoever. I think Mike Schilt made a huge impression on the Padres last season. Hyde has earned the right more than like any on-field personnel to see this thing through. And if he doesn't get that 1.5 over under playoff victory this year, I don't think he's going to get another chance to do that. So I want to see it.
What would be your measure of like whether he turns the corner or not? Besides the obvious wins and losses.
Right. Like the easy answer is win a playoff series, just one single playoff series. But I think even if you have a hard fought playoff series and you go to 7 games and or what's the first round, 5 games, even if you make it to game 5, yeah, and the team, doesn't sputter the way they did last year. Yeah, I could see that. Just show up in the playoffs. Don't roll over like dogs and get your belly rubbed again.
Right. And something I thought of while you were talking is there's certain managers and coaches in sports that are good at certain things. That's not very descriptive, but certain types of teams in certain situations, there's coaches who are good for that situation, but not others. And it could be that Hyde is good at working with a young team and guiding them through rebuilds and building guys up mentally and dealing with the shit that comes with losing 90 games a year. But maybe he's not a guy who's a playoff type manager. It's possible. I'm not saying that's the case, but
Right.
we might know in 10 years that that's just who he is and that's what he's best at.
And sometimes you'll see a guy get this label on him that he can't get a team over the hump. Like Tony Dungy with the Buccaneers comes to mind, and they go somewhere else and get it done. So yeah, there's a lot to prove this year,
Right.
especially come October. Brandon Hyde moved into 4th place on the franchise managerial wins list this weekend with 408. He's 109 behind Paul Richards, who managed the team from 55 to 1961.
Paul Richards. You could have given me 100,000 guesses and I wouldn't have guessed Paul Richards.
I hate how Baseball Reference has them bunched in with the old St. Louis Browns numbers.
Right. You have to like weed them out. You want my third and final thing I want to see?
Yeah.
We were kind of talking about this earlier, and I said starting pitching depth is solid, if unspectacular. So basically, just looking for 5 guys or maybe 11, like you're saying, who can come out and just be decent. So my prediction there is no Orioles starter will have an ERA under 3.30, but none will have an ERA over 4.40. This is, I didn't set a threshold for this random prediction I made, but thinking guys who like start the majority of the season.
I could see Eflin. Eflin seems to be peaking a little bit since the team traded for him. I could see him being under 3.30, but the rest of them are right in that line. Like that Gibson was a 4.24, I think, in 2023.
I just want him to avoid the disastrous,
Yeah.
5s and stuff. So my over-under for you is Zach Eflin. His ERA, 3.30, over or under?
I'm going to smash the under on this.
All right. I hope so.
Yeah. I foresee a 3.05, but I have high expectations for Eflin. I'm going to say 2.93.
All right. I hope so. That would be not Burns level. Well, actually, it might have been ERA wise, but that's getting up there.
So I'll tie this into one of my predictions, and that's Sugano has more pitching wins than Ohtani this season and gets some AL Rookie of the Year votes.
Ooh.
There's some caveats here, obviously, because no one really knows how many starts Ohtani's going to make. It might only be like around 15 or so, which would, neuter his ability to rack up some wins.
Is there anything about
good.
him when he's going to start a game?
I haven't really heard anything, and one of the theories I did hear is maybe they'll use him as an opener a little bit just to build up some innings.
You know what's weird is like I almost like I know he was a starter and he's a good one, but I almost forgot because he's like such a good hitter. You're like, oh wait, that dude pitches too. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's been a while since he did it.
Right.
But it just sounds good that this 35-year-old rookie nobody heard of outside of the major leagues could win more games than Shohei Ohtani.
Do you think his age and the fact that he's been a pro in Japan for like 15 years will prevent him from getting Rookie of the Year votes?
Only if other people don't step up. I feel like that's when that happens. When there's like a muted rookie class, it's easier for a guy like Sugano to poke through and just take the award.
Who have you read about any of the top rookies this year? Like who's expected?
No.
I don't even know. I know there's like some young prospects like that Cam Smith from Houston. He was drafted like last year and made their roster already.
Yeah, they got him in the Kyle Tucker trade. Yeah, I keep like learning a new name every few days, and then I have to try and remember that name too. Like, I've been hearing about Cam Smith the last couple of weeks, and when you asked me if I heard anybody, I totally blanked, and I would have never thought of him.
Right. Yeah, I just don't know anybody. Oh, and who's that? Christian Campbell on the Red Sox. I think he's their second baseman to start the year at least.
That's a good one,
He's
and
supposed to be good.
they're rumored to be working on an extension with him.
Oh, weird. What's that like?
Someone else got an extension too this week. Oh, the Diamondbacks gave one to Brandon Fott.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Well, I guess there's nobody in the Orioles I want them to do that with right now. The only comparison for him on the O's would probably be Grayson, and I don't think either of us would be comfortable with them committing a lot of money to him at this point.
We had that big extension talk a couple episodes ago, and I said give Grayson a 10-year deal. I think I would still do it just for his potential and just
If it's
realize
cheap,
like, yeah,
like $12 million a year or something,
he should want to do it too because
right?
I don't
His
know how
arm's made of glass.
Strasburg knew when to take that deal. The
Wasn't-
rare time Boris had someone take the deal before they hit free agency.
Do you remember? I don't know when these books came out, but do you remember the author Matt Christopher, like a children's? He wrote like sports books for kids.
Mm-mm.
I just thought of he wrote a book called Catcher with a Glass Arm. I just looked it up. It is indeed a thing. I didn't just make it up in my head. Couldn't tell you what it's about anymore, but maybe I should start reading books for 12-year-olds about baseball.
You could make a podcast about it, an episode. Review some baseball books.
Right.
We could start a Patreon.
I could do that. If my issue with reading is I love doing it, but I will forget like 90% of what I read as soon as I finish the book. So
yeah, the older I'm getting, I can't retain anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy because you hear about it when you're younger and you're like, pfft. And it's real. It really happens.
Right.
I'll go with a thing I want to see, and that's Heston Kjerstad make it impossible for Brandon Hyde to leave him out of the lineup. Number 2 overall pick in 2020. It's not fair to call him a disappointment because he hasn't had a fair shot yet, but at the same time, it's been 5 years now.
Right.
And they've really got nothing out of him.
He's 26. That's like shocking to me because he's barely played.
He has a career 911 OPS as a minor leaguer. That'll play. And I know he's not a Gold Glove or anything. I'm not sure if he's as bad defensively as a lot of us think he is. But
he made a nice throw, and was that opening day?
Yeah.
Day after?
And I know he embarrassed himself last year when his pants fell down and he ran into the wall. Like, That was a bad look, but I I think he's serviceable. I don't think he's like Edward Scissorhands out there.
No, that's, I mean, but when you compare him with Cowser and Mullins and O'Neill, he is garbage. But I don't know. Kerstad to me is still an enigma. I still, like, I know you're high on him. I know he's been good in the minors and he was in college, but he just, well, I was going to say he hasn't shown enough in the major league level, but he also hasn't gotten those opportunities, which is exactly what you're talking about. But that,
Yeah. The thing I want to see is him be undeniable, I guess. Like there's a good chance he could be optioned this week when Gunnar comes back.
right. Yeah, he's in a weird spot. You know, any prospect on a good team is usually going to be kind of stuck, and I feel like he's kind of there.
Yeah, he started out stuck with that myocarditis, and he had I can't remember if it was a hamstring or something that sent him
Yeah,
back in
I think
spring
it's
a few years
hammy in
ago.
spring training. Yeah, I don't know. I'm more pessimistic about Kerstead than I am optimistic, but I hope he proves me wrong.
You don't have anything else to throw out there?
No, I just made the three.
Okay,
I did them all.
I'll
Do you have
speedball a
more?
couple of these
All
then.
right.
Yeah, another thing I want to see is Felix Bautista. Be Felix Bautista. Like even if he's 3/4 as good as he was in 2023, he's going to be a huge difference maker.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what's he throwing out? Like 96, 97 maybe, which is hard, but not what he was. But his one appearance he made against Toronto this weekend, his splitter was nasty still.
Yeah, it was so cool to see him.
Yeah. That was fun.
And then I'll use this one to discuss the Bob Nightingale report that the Orioles have let teams know that Ryan Mountcastle is available for trade. So it's not really an over under, it's more of a either or. Who was more at bats this season, Kobe Mayo or Samuel Basayo?
That's a good question.
When I
I
first wrote this, my pick was Basayo, but then that rumor came out that the team might want to make room for Kobe Mayo. But even if they trade Ryan Mountcastle, there still isn't a spot for Mayo unless you DFA Mateo or something, or the trade involves multiple major leaguers. So, like, who would the first baseman be if you traded Mountcastle? Urias?
would trust Arias at first. I don't know if I would trust anybody else who would realistically play there. Not O'Hearn.
No, and
Not Mayo.
right.
Mayo still can't hit major league pitching. Like that's the thing to me is like, God, it's like the same conversation we just had about Kerstad. It's like he rips it up in AAA and he hasn't proven himself at the major league level. But when you're trying to actively win games, are you going to be getting rid of Mountcastle for a guy who might end up not hitting it all still?
Or able to play defense. Mayo has only played 58 career professional games at first base. And if he's anything at third base, he's unplayable. So I won't even entertain the thought.
And he wouldn't either with the Orioles between Westberg and Arias. So.
Right. And then to Mayo, though, he'll still only be 24 when next season starts. He turns 24 in December, I think. So I don't understand what the rush is here. Like with Kerstad, there is a bit of a rush. He's 26 already. But Mayo, there's no rush. He can be in next year's plans. You don't even need to entertain trading him. I know he had a temper tantrum where he said he's ready. In his two limited opportunities, this isn't 2022 anymore. They don't need to make space for guys. Like you said, they're trying to win. So Mayo had two limited opportunities last season down the stretch. He was abysmal. And then spring training this year, he was not good at all. He didn't take the job that was presented to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on a team that's not trying to win and is maybe rebuilding, you could be like, yeah, screw it. We have nothing to lose. We're not getting worse if we put him in the lineup, but you absolutely are getting worse right now, if you ask me, if you replaced Mountcastle with Mayo. And that's not even because Mountcastle's an incredible hitter. Like I think most Orioles fans would agree he's largely been underwhelming as far as what people wanted him to be and what he's shown flashes of. But he is really good defensively, and his bat is adequate, whereas Mayo would be bad defensively and possibly also bad offensively.
And then Mountcastle being at first base, his trustworthiness on defense. Gunnar makes several like wild stallion throws from shortstop, but he still has a ways to go at shortstop. He'll make the
Murdered a
flashy
cameraman.
play. Yeah, he murdered a cameraman. And then Jackson Holiday's still learning second base. So you really want Gunnar throwing murder balls and Jackson Holiday learning second base with a guy who's also learning first base in Kobe Mayo and a guy who can't play first base in Ryan O'Hearn.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. You need some steadying presence in the infield, and if your first baseman is unreliable, I don't know what that says about you.
That's another thing. People love to tell me that defensive first base doesn't matter. That's insane to me. There's a reason why guys who can't hit can hang out on a major league roster all year. And it's because defense is so underrated in baseball. The Red Sox in 2004 made that trade for Doug Mankiewicz just to play defense down the stretch at first base. It helped them win a World Series. Doug Mankiewicz couldn't hit.
Right. And Ortiz couldn't field, so they figured it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and it's not even like fielding ground balls, because there's probably not too many hit to a first baseman in the course of a game, but all those throws. I mean, just Mountcastle missed, I think, one from Mateo today that he could have scooped. It wasn't a good throw, but those are the types of plays that a first baseman will be there routinely and hopefully making up for some errors, like you said.
you got to hold runners on too. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
There was an article that came out since we last recorded that the 2024 Baltimore Orioles set the record with the least amount of double plays hit into in a single season. Did you see this?
No, I don't think I did.
So nobody knew the Orioles broke this record last season. They shattered it. I couldn't find the second team to hit into the least amount of double plays last season, but it was like near 90, I think, where the Orioles had hit into 71 double plays last season. The previous record was 75, held by the 1945 Cardinals. So while I was looking into this, I found the top 15 players of all time to hit into the most double plays.
Oh.
Three of them are Orioles.
I know Ripken held the record until Pujols broke it. I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Yeah, and Miguel Cabrera passed Ripken.
Oh, okay.
Ripken's now third all time with 350. Cabrera has 364, which is 62 behind Pujols.
Okay.
Do you have a guess for the other two?
The other two Orioles double play balls. So you gotta play for a long time and probably be not very fast. Palmeiro?
No.
Are these guys that played
Oriole.
Okay, I was gonna ask, how long did they spend with the Orioles? One was a career Oriole,
and the other is in the Hall of Fame with the Orioles. So extremely well-known Oriole. Bounced around a little bit.
Frank Robinson?
Close. Brooks Robinson is the...
Brooks. He's a career. Okay.
He's 12th all time, tied with Rusty Staub with 297.
Okay.
The other guy came back, hit his 500th homer with the Orioles.
Oh, Eddie Murray. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
He's tied for 8th all time with Jim Rice.
All right.
So over under 70 double plays this season for the Orioles. You think they break their own record?
Definitely over. Not gonna count on winning or breaking a record 2 years in a row.
Mateo hit into a brutal double play today.
Yeah, he also didn't look like he was fully running it out at the end. That kind of bothered me.
Yeah, that caught my eye too.
I was kind of like, oh, he might beat this. And like he was just kind of jogging the last few steps.
And then I saw Gunnar Henderson play today for the Tides, and he was running his ass off on a routine ground ball. And then he also went first to third on a play. I think Gunnar Henderson is more healthy than Jorge Mateo is. I don't understand why Gunnar went to do a rehab assignment in the second game of the season where Mateo went right to the opening day lineup. And after seeing Mateo this weekend, just makes me question that because he doesn't look ready.
That is a good point. And I don't recall the last time a guy was injured to start the season, but he just still played at AAA and not in the majors. Like there was no time off. Like he was playing as the O's were playing their first series.
Yeah,
I don't really get that.
I didn't get it either.
But yeah, Mateo has not looked good so far.
It's the final prediction, like their win total, and how do you think you're finished? Did you do that?
Oh boy. I didn't write anything down, but I'm going to guess like 89. I just think 90 seems like a threshold that I'm not comfortable putting this Orioles team above at this point. But I don't think they're going to be bad by any means.
Yeah, Andy Koska had them at, I think, 85 and 77, where all the other Baltimore Riders were in the 90s.
Okay.
So you're not alone on this.
Yeah, and it's mainly just their pitching. Like they have very little quality starting pitching as far as like top 2 or 3 guys, and their bullpen, they're getting Bautista back, which is helpful, but still several guys there that I don't trust. So those are my issues.
I'm going to say 92 wins, but I feel like you do in that I think this team might be like the Cincinnati Bengals this season, where they score a shitload of points, but they allow a shitload of, runs.
Mm-hmm.
The season, like the tipping point of the season might come down to Sagano, Dean Kramer, and Charlie Morton.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, that's not good. I wasn't too concerned about the pitching until we were wrapping up our last episode and we were trying to guess who might be pitching for the Blue Jays this series. And we said Barrios, Scherzer,
Gossman.
Yeah, Gossman. And we didn't even mention Bassett, but he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh shit, all of those guys would be in the top half of the Orioles rotation. Every single one of them.
Yeah, like they're all better than everyone but Eflin right now.
Yeah, even the corpse of Max Scherzer would be like the number 2 starter on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I have 92 wins. I don't feel great about it, but their offense, I'm not going out on a limb with this. They're going to be tough to face for opposing pitchers, but my final prediction for how the season ends, it's at Game 7, World Series, Camden Yards, and Corbin Burns is coming in for the Diamondbacks. And that's where the season ends.
Oh God, I don't know. That's something that every time the O's make the playoffs, which isn't that frequently, and they never go far, but it's so stressful. Like I can't imagine a Game 7 World Series with the Orioles. I might have a heart attack before it even starts.
I know it was hard watching those games against the Rangers and Royals last 2 years, and those were games you knew they were going to lose in like the third inning. Right. It was still stressful.
Yeah. And I think I'd always rather just lose early than make it all the way to the World Series and then lose.
I don't know.
Even though we were both just saying we want them to win a series, I guess it's different. I want them to show progress by winning a series, but if you're asking me like when your team bows out, I'd rather get it over with quickly and not have to go through all that.
Tap out early. Yeah, I don't know. I'm willing to get crushed. Like I'll take a heartbreaking defeat just to make it, I guess. Like if they made it to the World Series and lost and that was all they had to show for this rebuild, I would deem that a success, I think. Because I didn't think they were ever going to get out of it, and they did fairly quickly.
It's not that it wouldn't be successful; it would just suck so much.
Yeah, it would come up short.
Yeah, because that's another
talent.
That's like another month of following the playoffs and watching games, and then you just lose in the 7th game of the World Series. Like hell, just kick me out in the wild card round. I don't have to worry about all that then.
I remember scrolling Twitter after the Rangers sweep and Section 336 went live with their reaction. And that taught me to never do a live reaction episode after a playoff defeat, because it wasn't that they weren't like doing a good job. It was just, I forget his name. Josh is the one host. His brother's Matt. He was just like, he was angry and he was like, we shouldn't be on here giving our thoughts because they're not productive right now.
It's probably true.
You're just bitter.
Right.
Yeah. At least after a couple of days, you can be like, okay,
right.
that was bad, but at least I woke up the next day.
The sun will rise.
Yeah. So let's get into these games. We got regular season games, real games.
Yeah, that crept up on us quick, I feel like.
Yeah, we did 7 or 8 episodes over the off season.
Wasn't that many? Wow.
Yeah, we did about the same number both off seasons. So we've
Okay.
So yeah, we got Zach Eflin versus Jose Barrios from the Sky Dome on Thursday, March 27th.
Yeah, opening day, crossed the border. The O's got out to a quick lead when Adley Rutschman went deep to right field for a solo home run as the second batter of the game, and it was 1-0.
He is 15 for 24 career off Barrios. It was the third longest home run of his career, too.
Yeah, that one even fooled Kevin Brown. He was like, and he's in the bullpen. No, he's in the bleachers.
His first career home run was off Barrios back in 2022 also.
Oh, was that his first career homer?
Yeah.
I didn't realize Adley owned Barrios like that. Tyler O'Neill led off the second with a walk. Then Mountcastle doubled to put runners on second and third with nobody out. Mullins followed with a chopper to first that Guerrero couldn't make a decision with, and O'Neill scored, but Mullins beat the throw to first. It was still nobody out with a 2-0 Orioles lead. However, Mullins was then caught stealing before Barrios got Arias and Holiday to keep the score 2-0 after 2.
So top 3, Kowser draws a leadoff walk. Adley slices a single to left field. Barrios gets the next 2 outs, and that brings up Tyler O'Neill, who had come into opening day with 5 straight opening day home runs, which was the all-time Major League record. And he went opposite field to make it 6 straight opening days home runs, with the Orioles up 5-0 now.
That is crazy. And I was wondering, another thing, I don't know how I would ever look it up, but O'Neill's hit 6 straight homers on the first game of the season. I wonder if anybody's ever done that on a different game number, like on the 40th game of the season, or 151 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, opening day makes it easy to keep track of. If someone really wants to look into that, they'd be earning their paycheck.
Right.
Then Eflin was cruising with 53 pitches through 3 2/3 when new Blue Jay Andres Jimenez hit a 2-run homer to cut the Orioles' lead to 6-2.
The next scoring came in the 7th when Westberg walked, O'Neill singled, and the Blue Jays brought in Chad Green to face Mullins. Mullins took a 1-2 pitch into the O's bullpen for his second home run and his 3rd, 4th, and 5th RBIs of the game to make it 9-2.
Yeah, that was Mullins' 6th multi-home run game of his career. Holiday led off the 8th with a single. Adley and Westberg then go back-to-back with a combined 821 feet of long balls, and that gives us our 12-2 final. Orioles victory, 1-0.
1-0. That was a nice, I feel like last year I complained a lot about having very few easy wins, and this was one of those on the first day of 2025, so I like that.
I gave out 3 stars. Number 3, Tyler O'Neill for extending his opening day home run record, and more importantly, he brought everybody donuts from Tim Hortons.
Oh. He doesn't look like a guy who eats many donuts. He looks like a dude who's very strict about his regimen.
They showed his dad in the crowd, and we've seen the picture of him during his Mr. Canada heyday. He's still jacked.
Oh yeah,
at 70 something.
You could tell. I wouldn't fight that dude.
Mm-mm. Number 2, Zach Eflin. Eflin extended his streak of consecutive starts with 3 runs or fewer to start an Orioles career. The record was 15, set last season by Corbin Burns. This was Eflin's 10th such start. And then Rick Krivda is third all time with 8, and that was in 1995.
It was funny to me seeing his name on the broadcast. I know I brought him up on this like a year or two ago as like a random old Red Wing.
Number 1 starred Adley and Cedric Mullins. They combined to go 6 for 10, 4 home runs, 8 RBI, 5 runs scored, 1 strikeout, 1 caught stealing. And then Cedric Mullins moves into a tie on the all-time Orioles home run list at 33 with Fred Lynn and Mark Trumbo.
Fred Lynn and Mark Trumbo. I don't think I would have thought Fred Lynn played that long with the O's, but
yeah, I guess they were both power hitters,
yeah.
Trumbo and Lynn at the time.
But I do like what I saw from, the extremely small sample size of one game with Mullins carrying over his strong second half and Rutschman seemingly erasing his weak second half. That was good.
So we did this last year. I wanted to see if you could do it again. The opening day roster was announced, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 Orioles who were on last year's opening day roster that were not on this year's opening day roster.
That's like half. Jeez.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm wondering how many can you name?
All right. Just going around the diamond. Mechanic catcher. And then, let's see. Was Tony Kemp on the opening day roster? Second base?
Correct.
I feel like we've talked about Vavra multiple times being on the opening day roster. Or was that 2 years ago?
No Vavra, but there is another guy whose last name starts with V.
I'm probably not even going to think of it.
It's a tough one.
Well, let's go to the pitcher's mound because I know Burns, obviously, and Bradish and Wells.
Bradish was not. Remember, he was injured to start last season.
Oh, you're right. Okay, my fault.
You did get Tyler Wells, though. So
Okay.
I think that's 4.
In the outfield, we have Santander gone.
One more outfielder.
Hayes.
Yep. So you've gotten all the position players now.
Okay, so now it's just pitchers. Coulomb.
Yep. 6 more.
6. I'm not going to get 6 more. That's for sure.
One guy was mentioned already this episode is signing a minor league contract with the Braves.
Oh, Kimbrel. Yep. They're all going to be very obvious to me, but I'm just not going to think of them. That's what's going to happen.
Now, these are pretty tough. There's one more obvious one.
One more obvious one. Starter or reliever?
Starter. We've talked about him already this episode as well.
Gibson. No, he was on team. Wait. No, he wasn't. I don't know. I'm having a brain fart.
Grayson.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay.
And then these next ones are tough. Nick Vespi. Dylan Tate.
Okay.
Cole Irvin.
All right.
And Mike Bauman.
Yeah, those guys are all forgettable. I don't blame myself for forgetting them.
Yeah, especially Tate, Vespi, Bauman.
But that's crazy. That's a 25-man roster. That's over half for a team that made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Seems like it. I don't know where other teams stack up, but I would think that's a lot.
Some more notes from opening day. Before the game, the Blue Jays made an announcement to their fans to refrain from booing the Star Spangled Banner. We'll just say for reasons. The O's broke the franchise record of 4 home runs on opening day. That was done twice in 1982 and 2006. This was the third straight opening day for the Orioles with 10 or more runs. Every Orioles starter reached base, and then Sam Horn was the last Oriole with 2 home runs on opening day in 1990. The Blue Jays had 7 total bases to the Orioles' 33 total bases. So they left a lot of meat on the bone in this game despite scoring 12 runs.
Right. Yeah, that was a solid whooping. I like that.
And that loss snapped the Blue Jays' 5-game opening day winning streak.
All right.
I took extra notes because it was opening day and I was pretty excited.
You know, I do think it's a good thing to start in Toronto because you're getting one of your like northern series out of the way, but they have a roof, so you don't have to worry about playing in the freezing cold in like Minnesota or something.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought. And you knock out 4 games against a division rival early. Didn't have to worry about the rain. Like, you know, the Blue Jays were still finding themselves too.
Right. They found themselves in the second game.
They did, and I kind of needed that because after Thursday, I was like, are the Orioles going to go 162-0? And yeah, this was Friday. So I activated my $94 Fubo monthly subscription to watch Orioles games. And then one day later, Major League Baseball was like, we need another $8.99 so you can watch this Friday game. It didn't happen. I found an illegal stream and I was able to watch. The Orioles gave Morton a 2-run lead with a Jackson Holiday solo homer and a Tyler O'Neill sacrifice fly. But other than that, we can probably skip most of the inning by inning breakdown here.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto started the fourth with 3 consecutive singles. One thing I pointed out here is we've joked about how the Blue Jays get a lot of the major leaguers' children on their team. Of course, Jackson Holiday is one of those, but they have a new one this year in Will Wagner, who's the son of new Hall of Famer Billy Wagner.
Yeah, it made me laugh. I did not catch that until today. I actually picked him up for my fantasy team yesterday, and I didn't know it then either. But
I think
yeah,
he was
Hall
with
of Famer Billy Wagner.
Yeah, I think Will was like with Houston. I think this is his first year with Toronto. He didn't like come up in their organization, but that kind of made me chuckle because they lost Biggio. They didn't lose him. They like cut him loose, and he made a roster somewhere. I don't remember
Yeah,
where.
the Royals.
Royals, okay.
He started opening day because Pasquantino wasn't ready.
Okay. Yeah, so more or less the Orioles struggled a lot, namely Charlie Old Man Morton, and then they brought in another old guy, Albert Suarez, who didn't really fare much better. Threw a couple wild pitches. His first pitch went like 57 feet and got by Rutschman, and nothing really good happened after that for the Orioles.
Yeah, Morton was struggling early, even though he got through the first 3 scoreless. He was in the 80 pitches in the fourth. So we're instantly concerned about Charlie Morton, aren't we?
Yeah, like I know he's better than he played, but yeah, anybody who's that old and performs that way, you're going to be like, oh shit, he's toast.
You can get old in a single offseason in professional sports.
Right.
Jackson Holiday and Jorge Mateo made errors. Holiday botched a double play ball. I'm not sure what happened with Mateo's throwing error. I think maybe he saw Santander standing at first base and got confused.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was completely unnecessary, and he just heaved it. And technically went out of play.
Yeah, bounced off a water bottle, they said.
Right. I will point out that Rochester native Ernie Clement got his first 2 RBIs of the year in that game. That was fun.
Yeah, that's all I got on this game.
Yeah. Don't need to. They did get 3 walks and a pass ball in the 9th when they were trying to come back from a 6-run deficit, but couldn't do anything with it.
Mountcastle struck out swinging, so you were hoping like, hey, Mountcastle loves hitting in Canada, maybe he can get them back in this. But yeah, this game was just not good.
Wasn't meant to be, I suppose.
So game 3, Saturday night, Dean Kramer versus Hall of Famer Max Scherzer.
This game saw the O's get out to an early lead again when Cowser led off the game. He hit the second pitch from Scherzer over the wall to dead center for a quick 1-0 lead.
Westberg hits one 434 feet, 109.7 off the bat. So the Orioles are up 2-0 right away. I love leadoff Cowser. He was great in the leadoff spot for the Tides during their championship season. I'm curious to see if Gunnar gets back in there when he comes back. I kind of hope Cowser stays there for a while.
We'll see. I don't know how much I trust Cowser. I think his swinging broken hand is still like burned into my memory, but maybe I'll get over that someday and he'll get better.
Yeah, I have a note on his playing style for Sunday's game. But so Dean Kramer got an early 2-0 lead, and he immediately served up 3 straight singles to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, he made sure that lead didn't last long. And then he also gave up a sacrifice fly, and the game was tied at 2 after 1 inning.
The third inning, Bichette draws a leadoff walk. Dean then strikes out Guerrero and Santander swinging, but Andres Jimenez made him pay with his second home run of the series. Blue Jays are up 4-2. The Blue Jays got a lot of shit for this Jimenez trade. He was great in this series.
He had a bad year last year, but I think he was like an all-star the year before. He's a solid player. He's a real good defender who I think his bat is kind of like will he or won't he hit type of deal.
Yeah, he was hitting in this one. You know who else was hitting in this game? O'Hearn in the top of the fourth. He had a leadoff double. I owe him an apology. He was great this series. I think I was just acting out because I didn't want to see Kjerstad get traded. And, you know, O'Hearn spot on the roster made that more likely. But, yeah, I'm sorry, Ryan O'Hearn. I'm an asshole.
We all knew that, but... Yeah, this was off of Richard Lovelady because Max Scherzer came out after just 45 pitches over 3 innings. They were saying he had right lat soreness. But then I saw something today that it was something else, like his thumb or some other non-lat injury. So I don't really know what it actually was.
Yeah, Scherzer is a bit of a drama queen now. He's been complaining about his thumb for a couple of weeks, and he's saying this lat injury is directly related to his thumb, and he says he could have put himself in imminent danger if he had continued to pitch.
Danger? Was he gonna die out there?
I think he's got some Aaron Rodgers in him, as he likes to be the center of attention. I don't think he's on that level of extreme, but I think Scherzer loves attention. I remember when he wanted to be traded for the Mets, he said, we're going to have a talk. And like a day later, he was on the Rangers. And when the Rangers won the World Series, he made a big deal about if he could make a start or not. And then he did, and he lasted like basically what he did in this game.
Right.
So he's damaged goods. I'm glad the Orioles didn't sign him.
Yeah, I definitely brought that up in the offseason, but I'm going to say I'm going to take a mulligan on that based on what happened on Saturday.
Lovelady plunked Mullins and Kjerstad to load the bases for new Oriole Gary Sanchez's sacrifice fly. Holiday drew a 4-pitch walk. And despite all of this, John Schneider left Lovelady in the game to serve up was essentially the game-winning bases-clearing double that went over Santander's head by Ramon Urias. 6-4 Orioles.
Jacob Barnes replaced Lovelady for the 5th, and the O's put runners on first and third with 1 out. Mullins singled to score Rutschman and move Westberg to third, so the O's were up 7-4. Then Kjerstad hit a sac fly to score Westberg, and it was 8-4 after 4.5 innings.
Yeah, the Orioles would wrap up the scoring in the 7th when Westberg would homer for the second time in the game, and Felix would close it out in the 9th.
Yeah, Cano, Soto, Dominguez, and Bautista combined for the final 3 innings with no runs on 2 hits, 3 walks, and 7 Ks.
Yeah, I have them as my second star, the bullpen. Cano, Soto, Dominguez, and Bautista.
I didn't count Aiken because he came in relief in the middle of an inning.
Oh, I didn't even have his name down. But yeah, the bullpen looked good in this one.
Kramer, however, did not.
No, Kramer, yeah, he's not even noted on here. We should be talking about how bad he was. That was abysmal.
He just seems to do that. Like that's his big thing is consistency. He has the stuff, and occasionally he goes out there and puts it all together, but then he has an outing like this. So I just think that's who he is at this point.
Yeah. And he's 29 already too, which is crazy.
Right.
I gave the first star to Jason Westberg, batted cleanup, 4 for 5, 3 runs, 2 RBI, 2 home runs. He played second base in this game. That's my preferred position for him.
Well, assuming Henderson's healthy though, what do you do with Holiday?
I am a Westberg second, Holiday short, Gunner at third.
Okay. I don't dislike that if we get some more evidence from Holiday that he's a good shortstop. I don't think he can't be. I just don't know yet.
Yeah, that's true. I just feel like Gunner would be more wrangled or corralled at third base. Like he's awesome at shortstop, but he's also disastrous.
I remember reading, it may have been Keith Law who was saying that like Henderson's a decent shortstop, but if he plays third, he's like Scott Rowland level defensively.
Yeah, perfect. I gave the number 3 star to Scherzer. We already talked about him. I recently heard him on an interview on Starkville, Jason Stark's podcast. It was pretty good. He was talking about the ABS challenge system and
why was
stuff,
he your third star?
Oh, just because this might be the last time we see him pitch. I think this was there's a non-0% chance that this was his final start.
Will he go into the Hall of Fame as a Blue Jay then?
Like, even if he does come back, there's a good chance he doesn't finish the season. And he was patting himself on the back for gutting it through 3 innings and 45 pitches. Like, that just kind of tells you where he's at.
I mean, you do have a point.
And then after this game, Adley, Mullins, and Westberg had combined for 36 total bases, while the Blue Jays as a team combined for 38.
That's good to see. You want to see your best players carrying the team.
So this brought us to the series finale on Sunday. Suganu versus Chris Bassett.
Yeah, and what was funny about Sugano is he was really known for throwing so many strikes, and he walked the very first batter that he faced in the major leagues, Bo Bichette. And that led to them eventually, Toronto, that is, scoring 2 runs and taking a 2-1 lead after the O's had already gotten up 1-0 in the first.
Yeah, I think there were some nerves with Sugano.
For sure. We ended up leaving with hand cramps, right? Was he like gripping the ball, like trying to squeeze the life out of it? Is that how do you get hand? I've never heard of that.
Oh, that's true. Where I guess it was Ben McDonald. I don't know. The booth was talking about how the balls are different in Japan, so he had to spend the off season, using these new balls that that are new to him. So maybe he was gripping it. I remember Jim Palmer talking about too on Adam Jones's podcast. One reason he believes for all the tendon injuries and stuff is because guys are gripping the hell out of the ball. So maybe he was over gripping in this game.
Well,
he only threw 73 pitches.
That's what I think it was Glasnow last year said.
Yeah.
Or maybe I saw it last year, but he said it a few years ago where when they got rid of the sticky stuff, he was saying that you have to grip the ball so much tighter now that he thinks that's causing more injuries.
Yeah, I guess in Japan that the balls are more coated or whatever. And yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, the O's got out to a lead, but quickly gave it back, and there wasn't a whole lot else going on.
No, yeah, missed opportunities in the 4th and 5th for the Orioles. There was 2 on, 1 out for Mateo. He ended up hitting into a 6-4-3 double play. In the fifth inning, Mullins struck out swinging on the ninth pitch of his at bat, stranding two to end the fifth. And that was Baltimore's last good chance. They went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and that was pretty much the story of this game.
Yeah, and then there was a solo home run in the bottom of the seventh. I couldn't even tell you who that was off of at this point.
Oh, that was Tyler
Oh,
Heineman.
that was off of Perez, my favorite.
Yes, it was Tyler Heineman's first home run since 2019, just the second of his career, and that was the first home run allowed by CNL Perez since May 31st, 2023, and that ended the longest homerless streak in franchise history.
Wow. That makes him sound good, and I just don't think he is, and that's a weird stat.
I have some concerns about CNL Perez. I know it's, the first series. He's only pitched 2 games. He's only pitched 1 2/3, but opponents are batting .444 off of him. His whip is 3.60. His ERA is 16.20. He was not good last season. He hasn't been good in 2 years now. And they cannot have a leaky bullpen right now while they're waiting for Kittredge to come back and all the other pitcher injuries. If CNL Perez is cooked, so to speak, this is not going to play well early in the season. They're already at Brian Baker and Matt Bowman in the bullpen.
Do you think he catches all those home runs in his hat to make himself like more endearing, so people hate him less when he goes out and has to pitch?
He looked bummed out when they hit that homer off him today. I think he knew that streak was his calling card.
Yeah, I just don't think he's very good.
Yeah, I don't either. He can be. He could throw filth, but
yeah,
he set the bar so high for himself. It's kind of unfair to hold that against him. But at the same time, his ERA was 4.53 in 60 games last season. That's terrible for a lefty specialist.
Yeah, that's very bad. That's bad if you're a starter.
Yeah. Yeah. Cowser might have injured himself sliding into first base. I think part of what makes Cowser such a good player is how freely he plays, but I also think that's detrimental to him in terms of sliding into first base, swinging at a pitch that breaks your hand.
He got fooled by Vlad Guerrero on one of those. I don't remember which game it was. It might have been today where Guerrero was on second and there was a fly ball to left field and Cowser caught it and he basically tricked him like he wasn't going to run. And so Cowser just lobbed it in the second and Guerrero just took off for third. It was just like, you donkey, what are you doing? Just throw the ball.
He threw Kimbrel's record-breaking save ball into the water fountains in
Right.
Kansas City.
He doesn't seem like the most cerebral player.
You just hope this doesn't come back and bite him in a crucial moment sometime.
Right.
You don't want to see his name become a verb, he fucking got Cowsered. Thrown at it home by 20 feet to end the ALDS or something.
Or tried to throw someone out home and missed the plate by 20 feet. Something he's also good at. Well, what are your thoughts on going 2-2 in the opening series in Toronto?
It feels right. Thursday was so great. It was perfect. I was feeling good all day Friday about how they performed Thursday, and then the reality check came Friday, and yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's more questions to this team at this point in the season than there were at this point last season, I think. The bullpen looked better on paper 3 weeks ago than it does now. Morton is already highly questionable. Dean Kramer seems to just be who he is at this point. I think Sagano's going to be good, but he's still highly questionable as well. Anybody not named Zach Eflin is a red flag.
Right. 1/5 of your rotation is not an accident waiting to happen.
So, yeah, it's just they could easily end up in the 80 win range with the rest of the division if they can't stay healthy, or guys don't take the leaps that they need to make, or um, the pitching settles.
I would say 2-2 is like the least amount of wins for the O's to come out of this series for me to not be like mad about it. Like, of course, you want them to win 3 or 4 out of 4, but splitting with Toronto is like I can accept that, even though it's not desirable.
Yeah, you're not rolling into tomorrow feeling unbeatable like I did on Friday morning. And tomorrow's the home opener. It got pushed back due to weather. Be curious to see if that game gets played or not. But the schedule's not going to get any easier. They got Boston. I think they had some
Then they
run scoring
travel to
issues.
Kansas City and Arizona. Like, weren't all 3 of those playoff teams last year?
Yeah.
Or was Boston?
Oh, Boston was not,
No,
but they made a
but
lot of
they're supposed to be good.
additions.
Everybody's picking them to win the East this year. So
Yeah, yeah. So they're probably going to face Crochet. I don't know. I think Bayo's hurt. Oh, tomorrow they're facing Sean Newcomb, left-hander. Is that right?
I don't know who that is. Was he on Atlanta at one point? I feel like that name's familiar.
But yeah, they got Bregman. Devers is off to a terrible
Yeah.
start though. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, right. They moved into DH and now he can't hit.
I almost wonder if he's doing it on purpose.
He did seem pretty adamant about staying at third, which is weird because he's not good at third. It's like, dude, just grow up. Yeah, they're facing Crochet on Wednesday against Eflin.
So they're facing at least 2 left-handers this series.
Tanner Houck on Thursday.
He's lefty too, isn't he?
I think he's a righty. Is he Sean
Yeah,
Newcomb?
he's righty.
Yeah, Newcomb was on Atlanta at one point. Oh, he was in Oakland the last 2 years. That's why I forgot that guy existed. Yeah, the Red Sox are the hot pick to take the division this year, so that's not an easy series. And then you got at Kansas City, who of course made the playoffs and has Bobby Witt, and then at Arizona. Kind of hope they face Burns just for fun.
Yeah.
So
they got a good rotation. Burns wasn't even their opening day starter. They started Zach Gallen. I watched some of that game.
Yeah. And then they come back home and host Toronto, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. The Reds aren't great, but they weren't that bad last year. Like, they don't have them. They play Washington April 22nd to 24th, and they shouldn't be as bad as they were last year, but that's probably the first, like, okay, they're not that good series.
Yeah, there's a good chance they come out of April like a 500 team.
Uh-huh. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, we're going to find out real quick if they botch this rotation or not.
Yep. I have an opinion on that, and I hope I'm proven wrong, I guess.
So do you have any other early thoughts? Mine was Tyler O'Neill, extremely impressive. O'Hearn, same thing. Then I went to the Tides game today. Like I said, I saw Joey Crable pitch for the Bulls, and Eloy Jimenez was in right field for the Bulls.
Did he get any balls hit his way?
I didn't notice. I think it won maybe, but like not on a fly. Like it bounced to him, so he didn't really have to move.
What do you think about those bats that some of the Yankees have been using?
I think it's terrible. From what I understand, only like 2 guys used it.
I read it was Jazz and Volpe, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't have. Obviously, it wouldn't have made the news if they hadn't hit 9 home runs and 3 home runs on the first 3 pitches of the game from Cortez. So if I'm Major League Baseball, I think you got to step in and be like, okay, you can't use the bats. We're going to conduct some tests. We'll let you know by May 1st if these bats fit the standard. Because that's just too weird.
Aren't they supposed to have? Well, okay, so I hate the
Technically,
Yankees.
they fit the standard.
Right. They fit the standard, and also Judge hit 3 homers in that game, and he used a normal bat.
Right.
So I feel like you can take away 6 or take it down to 6, and I don't know how many were hit with those special bats. I like Don't like the Yankees at all, but I feel like they were just the first team to actually use them in a game because it sounds like, from what I read, the O's have dabbled in it a little bit, and other teams surely have as well because they all just copy each other and are basically on the same wavelength. Unless you're talking like banging on trash cans, everyone kind of does the same stuff.
Did I read Adley use one of those bats today?
I think in spring training, I don't think he used one today,
Oh, okay.
but I feel like if they're within the regulations, like there's nothing that says a baseball bat has to be shaped a certain way. It looks silly, but if it works, it works.
Yeah, I don't know how Major League Baseball didn't like test it during spring training or whatever, just to make sure. Maybe they did. I don't know, but
I mean, it's possible
I'm
they're also
concerned. I'll
bigger
just say
than
that.
the right diet. Like, I think they said it has to be 2.60 inches or something. Like, what if it's 2.63? Like, who's gonna know? Is anyone measuring those things? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can you like tell somebody to test it like they used to do with the corked bats back in the day?
What would you get a bigger advantage of, deflated footballs or these weird shaped bats?
I would say deflated footballs because the bat you still have to like hit the ball with.
Okay.
Like you
Yeah,
could
I'm
swing and
concerned.
miss, but a football, you're gonna get a chance to catch it.
I guess we'll know fairly shortly. Like if everybody's using these bats in a month, then you know they're making a huge difference.
Right. They might not
What'd you
be.
think about them? You don't think it's a big deal?
I just my first thought was like, oh, that's ridiculous. And then the more I read about it, I was like, well, they're supposedly within the regulations, and I'm sure the Yankees of all teams are not the first. They're not at the forefront of anything. I don't think. Um, so I feel like other teams are aware of them, and if they wanted to use them, they would. So I don't really have a problem with it, but I do think it would be interesting to see if they actually are made to the regulations because I don't think anybody was prepared to be dealing with these torpedo bats, as I've seen them called.
Yeah, I don't love it. You ready to take a quiz? Then I think we can get out of here.
Let's do it. What's the quiz on today?
Yeah, so this quiz is George or John. It's very short, 10 questions, 2 minutes. So we'll probably run out of time.
George Harrison and John Lennon?
Oh, that must be why. Yeah.
I was just joking. I don't know what.
That makes sense, though. That all of these MLB players given first names are either John or George. Can you pick which is which?
Babe Ruth is George.
When I did the test, that was the first one.
Yeah, obviously, they're going to ask that.
Because not all the quizzes are, something we can do record wise. Some of them are like mazes or whatever,
Right.
puzzles. So first off, we got Sparky Anderson.
George.
He's a George. Tom Seaver.
No idea.
I'll say John. It's George. Babe Ruth.
George.
Boog Powell. I think he's a John.
I don't know, actually. I'm sure I read it at one point.
He's a John. I know this next one. Ken Griffey Jr.
He's George.
He's a George. Logan Forsythe.
No idea.
Yeah, we'll say George.
I've heard that name.
He's a John. Hannes Wagner. Is it Honus or Hannes?
I think it's technically Hannes. I would say George because that just seems like an older name. And that was forever ago.
It's John. Dusty Baker.
George.
It's John.
Damn it. I'm going to stop.
Jack Morris. I think his name's
Jack.
John Jack Morris.
I think Jack is like my great grandfather was Jack, but his middle name was John. So I think it's short for John.
Yep. Okay, this is crazy. This name is a Muppet. Snuffy Sturdweiss.
Flip a coin.
I said George. It was George. We went 6 for 10. We had 25 seconds to spare.
All right.
Snuffy Sternweiss. I'm looking him to after we log off, looking at his baseball reference page or whatever.
Snuffy. Oh, he actually isn't super old. I assumed he would be playing in like the 1800s.
Right.
He played from 43 to 52. He was actually pretty good in 44 and 45. He was MVP voting fourth in 44 and third in 45.
Wow. Can I guess a team? Was he a Philly or like a Philadelphia Athletic?
Nope, he was a Yankee for 8 years, then Cleveland for 2, and the St. Louis Browns for 93 games.
You know that's pre Steinbrenner. He would never allow someone named Snuffy on his roster.
Well, he doesn't have any facial hair, so he would have fit that way at least.
All right. So we already went up the upcoming schedule. It's Red Sox, Royals, Diamondbacks.
Yeah, not an easy road for the O's, but I can't say I'm disappointed or happy about leaving Toronto with a split. So it is what it is. Move on, and only time will tell. We won't know anything about this team till like Memorial Day, probably.
Yeah, a lot of questions to be answered and a lot of baseball left. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep. Take care. Go O's.